All right. Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can see us and hear us at this point. We're just getting things set up and want to thank you for joining us. We're just waiting for, probably wait a couple of minutes, just a minute maybe, just to wait to see if we can get a few more people online. We have about 28 folks online right now. I just wanted to let you know while we're getting set up, if you have any issues with technical problems or anything, please just send a message through the chat function and I can try to support you on the back end here. Yeah, looks like a few people are still coming on. I also just wanted to let you know that this presentation is being recorded. So if anyone does jump in late, no worries. We'll be posting a recording of this on the project website that you can view if you miss anything or if you want to share it. So no fret if you're showing up a little bit, if you're going to show up a little bit late. And I guess we've got about 30 people online. So looks like I don't want to wait too long. Is everybody good with just kind of getting started? And again, we'll post the recording, so anybody that showed up a little bit late will be able to view that. All right, so we're just going to get started, I guess. So I want to thank everyone for attending. My name's Tamil Bainan, and I'm a communications and engagement specialist with B&A Planning Group. I've been supporting Mattamy Homes on the Southwinds Neighbourhood Structure Plan with the communications and engagement side of things. We currently have about 77 people registered for tonight and currently have 32 online. So I imagine some people will be trickling in over the next little bit here. As a reminder, all participants' cameras and microphones are off for the time being. If you are having any issues seeing the screen or hearing the presenters, please let me know and just type into the chat function. Before we officially begin, I also just wanted to let you know that a recording of the meeting as well as a PDF of the slides will be added to the project website, so you'll be able to view this at a later date as well. The purpose of this meeting, so due to the COVID-19 pandemic and provincial regulations surrounding social gatherings, Mattamy is hosting this virtual info session to provide an opportunity for the public to learn about our project and provide feedback in a safe format while social distance restrictions are in place. So we thank you again for joining us and hope that you have a great experience, and if this is your first virtual event. So we'll just jump over to our meeting agenda just to kind of walk you through what you can expect for tonight. So we'll start off with just some introductions of the project team, all the folks that are on the call tonight. We'll go through the planning process, provide some information about the location and context of the Southwind site. We have some site photos to share with you. We've got background information about the community area structure plan, which you'll learn about through the planning process. We've got our vision, guiding principles and highlights, our proposed land use concept and land uses. We've got some great imagery to share with you about our open space and connectivity plans, transportation, transit, servicing, and then we'll get into our development phasing. And then we'll wrap up with a question and answer period. So that's where we really want to hear from you. Any questions, comments, we want it to be really interactive. So we'll go through a couple ways for you to participate on the next slide. And then we'll just wrap up with the conclusion. So we have until 8 o'clock, but if we do wrap early, no problem there. We can just let everybody go a little bit early. But if we go right till 8, that's no worries as well. So first of all, on how to participate. So as a participant, you can type into the chat function on your device or computer. So whether you're on a screen or your phone, you can use the chat function, or you can raise your hand. That tells us that you actually want to ask a question to the project team. So when I see that your hand goes up when we're in the question and answer period, I will call on you to unmute your microphone, and then you can speak directly to the team. So whether you want to just send your questions through the chat function, I will be reading those questions out, or raising your hand to speak directly. We want this to be really inclusive and participatory. We also have an online survey at the completion of the event that I'll post a link to. It will also be available on the website. So if you don't have any questions immediately while you're hearing this all live, we're more than happy to collect your questions and comments in the survey as well. And then we will have a what we heard report that is pretty much just an engagement summary from all the feedback that we've received through tonight's conversations and the survey, and any emails I've received in the past couple of weeks. And it'll all be posted on the website and shared with the City of Airdrie. All right, so we'll just do a quick introduction. So when I call out the team's name, if everyone could just give a quick wave so people know who's on the line with us tonight. So Matt Simmons is landowner with Mattamy Homes. I'm Tamil Binen. Again, I'm kind of moderating tonight's event, and I'm with B&A Planning Group. We've got Kathy Oberg, planner and managing partner at B&A Planning Group, who will be giving our presentation. Ross Thermier, transportation planner with Sheffer Andrew. Stephen Sheldrake, who's in charge of the servicing with Pescini and Associates, and Alison Matthews, who's our landscape architect with NAC Design. So we just all want to thank you so much for joining us and look forward to getting into the discussion. All right, I'm going to pass it off to Kathy.
Thanks, Tamil, and welcome everyone. We've got a few more on, so that's good. We've got 42 of you, so nice to meet you. Typically we do these in person, but certainly we'll do it this way. I do enjoy when we get to meet everyone. So the planning process, where are we? We are currently at the neighborhood structure plan phase. Planning within all municipalities has a process. There's, from the moment lands get annexed and then become a reality, they all fall under the city plan. The city plan is the guiding policy that guides all things within a city. From that, the next level is a community area structure plan, and these lands certainly fall within the Chinook Winds CASP. After that, we get a little bit more fine grain. We have the neighborhood structure plan. And then we keep going down the process till we get to development and houses and parks and all those other things. When we're at the neighborhood structure plan phase, there's also a number of guiding policies that we look to and try to adhere with the policies. Here's some of the examples that we've noted between the sustainability plan and the Great Places plan, and certainly there's always a watershed management plan that we have to adhere to for each development within the city. And so today we're going to talk about the neighborhood structure plan. I hope to give a little bit of clarity too around other components of our adjacent lands. So I'm going to jump right into that. So location and context. I know there was some comments that we've seen in regards to the names. So the fuchsia area is our Chinook Winds CASP boundary. Within there's a number of communities: Chinook Gate, Cobblestone Creek, Prairie Springs, Windsong, and South Windsong. And I know we've heard some comments about, we actually don't call it South Windsong, we call it Southwinds. And so I would say by planning policy, it was named Southwinds originally, but that's the only place it stands. I know the community next to us is Southwinds, and our intention is to extend that and have Southwinds be the community in the southern portion of that community area structure plan. And so hopefully that gets some clarity. The only other place that you'll find that, I think, is very detailed documents that Mattamy submits to the city. So certainly it's not as if you'll see South Windsong in other places. So the lands that we have here we have three landowners. Mattamy's got a portion, the city of Airdrie does, as well as the Rocky View School Division. And so between them all together, we have a plan that's sitting about 155 acres. I've got a few site photos. The interesting thing about the land, majority of it is flat. There are a couple of natural features. There's certainly the dry creek that is diagonally crossing the site in the northwest corner. There's also a low point that sits in the bottom southeast corner, and we've got some high points with a couple knolls. Otherwise it's pretty straightforward for development with just those couple features in place. So the Chinook Winds CASP, it will require an amendment. There's a few things that have changed since it was first adopted, and certainly community area structure plans are fluid. They do change over time. Things change with land, market changes, or just desires of schools, as well as areas within the plans. We do have to make an amendment. So from its original approval in 2005, we now will be making some minor changes. One of them, very exciting, is the site at the bottom that will house a rec center and high school site. And I'm gonna have to tell you right now that all the detailed plans for that site aren't part of this process. Will definitely be a process moving forward, but not part of the neighborhood structure plan. There will be exciting things to come as far as the development and programming and all the amenities that we'll see on that site. But tonight you're going to see it as a green blob. So hopefully you're not too disappointed, but definitely it's exciting for the plan. The other thing that's going to change in the community area structure plan is we've moved a storm pond from the bottom south boundary up to the northeast corner. And we've also added a commercial site that will be adjacent to either the rec center or the high school, depending on how that gets laid out in the southern portion of the site. Another change is it was shown as a commercial site originally. We're calling it a special study area. More examination will need to be done, and the land use will need to be sorted, as well as we do have a landowner that's sitting here that isn't part of the plan. And so we've identified it as a special study area so that we can spend a little bit more time with the city of Airdrie and find out what's the right land use to be on that site. So those are the changes that you would see in conjunction with the neighborhood structure plan application. So let's talk about vision. Vision's always the fun part of it. We try to be complete communities when we design them. And so this one is looking to be a well-connected, destination-focused community that complements the natural amenities and the open space features with an attractive built form. It'll be a healthy, complete community with recreation at its center. Its thoughtful integration of diverse land uses will help shape the new standard for community building in Airdrie. So then we look a little bit deeper than that. And we talk about what are the main principles that we want to achieve when we develop a community. Walkability, connectivity, environmental sustainability, if there's an opportunity. Sometimes we get sites that don't have environmental features, and certainly it's always great when we do have environmental features because they do become an amenity. This is amenity that we have that's not only for this community, but it resonates through the entire community area structure plan. We try to be complete and have an attractive community, effective built form, and we say effective. There's a way of balancing open spaces with residential and making sure that with great built form, it feels like a community. And then that comes with a sense of place. So it gives you that strong sense of people in place if we do it effectively. And then we get into a little bit deeper and we talk about highlights. So we take those guiding principles, and then we turn them into even greater components. And I'm going to run through those. There's 7 of them. So we want to provide a distinct and complete community, and that comes from a variety of land uses. So that between housing, the small pocket of commercial, the environmental reserve, the parks, the ponds, the schools, all of those pieces allow us to have a complete community. And sometimes we can get live work units as well in conjunction with commercial nodes. Housing options, Mattamy has done this in their adjacent communities, certainly, by providing a variety of housing options, which helps all residents have an opportunity to live within a community, and also hits a different spectrum of affordability to ensure that there are those opportunities. Promoting an active lifestyle, we design our streets and our pathways to connect well as be in an efficient grid if possible. So on-street and pathways give that opportunity for bikes, pedestrians, and certainly vehicles as well. Integrating the land with the natural landscape if it's available. So certainly addressing it and celebrating it through our plans. There's an opportunity to also enhance those natural areas. Sometimes not every natural area is the nicest natural area. I've certainly seen many storm ponds or wetlands in my day that could be enhanced, and so there is an opportunity there as well to actually make that even a nicer creek area throughout the plan. And then creating a social interaction and sense of community, and that comes from nodes, typically nodes and open spaces. When we can offer places that you can gather, you can meet for a coffee, become the heart of a community. Those are very important for maintaining a strong sense of community. And then finally, utilizing infrastructure effectively. That's something that the city wants us all to do. It's if we have efficient services, they have efficient maintenance. So certainly the services that are provided to us, we want to make sure that we can connect in, and that relates back. There's times we might design things and the engineers say, oh, got to do something a little bit different because I'm not being as effective as I could be. And so certainly plans change, and it's part of the piece. So let's talk a little bit about the land use concept. And certainly you can see, this is the first time you see my big green blob. This is the area that we're proposing within the neighborhood structure plan. We're estimating about another 698 dwelling units, which could be anywhere between 1880 and 2,000 residents. It depends on how many residents come in per house. The density is looking to be about 8 units per acre. And we have a mix of land uses from low density residential, medium density, commercial areas, potential live work, of a number of municipal reserves, thoughtfully placed around the community. We've got our special study area up in that northwest corner. And certainly you can see the environmental reserve areas quite prominently through the plan. This is showing a little bit more detail around those proposed land uses. Mattamy has built a number of product offerings within their other 2 communities next door, between single family homes that range in width from 36 to 46 wide lots, medium density, which is our row homes, and you can get those in laned and laneless, a couple different options. I'm going to switch this one. The environmental reserve also, it's categorized, and our municipal reserves, which you'll see in the lighter green, and our commercial sites. So the product would be very similar to what you know adjacent to the site, and certainly if there's opportunities for different product within the market, that's something Mattamy continually looks at and sees where the market is wanting to, or what kind of houses the market is wanting to buy. Open space and connectivity. Let's talk a little bit about that. I mentioned how we try to get communities well connected through sidewalks, pathways, locations to park spaces. This gets fun when you start to add the radius around parks, but it's our goal that every resident has an opportunity to reach 1 or 2 open spaces if they can within 5 minutes of their house. And so that's where when we talk about thoughtful locations of open spaces, you'll notice that we have them kind of scattered throughout. All of the roads have sidewalks on both sides. We focus pathways along major roadways, so you'll see the green that follows along the collector roads. You'll also see that we have pathways that can run through the environmental reserve. We also have pathways that can take advantage of utility alignments, as well as pathways that do sometimes loop around storm ponds. And in this case, we certainly have it on a couple sides. And so open space and connectivity becomes, a big component when we design communities and try to figure out what's the right balance for residents to be able to have that quick access. So I'm going to show you some of the municipal reserve concepts, and this is where it gets exciting. I was really excited when I saw the pump track sitting in number 1 here. But there's a variety of opportunities that Mattamy can bring to families, pump track being one of them. So this is the park that's sitting up here adjacent to the environmental reserve. A dog park. So a dog park is being proposed over on the west side, just on the west side of the environmental reserve. We have a couple places where we get access or provide access into the environmental reserve, and we have the opportunity for seating. We have the opportunity for playgrounds. And then we also have a playground proposed sitting on the east side. So number 5 would be a play structure, some informal play areas. Certainly, I won't lie, having a facility like this, number 9, is definitely another big benefit. There will be a number of amenities that will come on that site. There's also a joint use site that's proposed here in number 10, and I'll show a detail of that as well. So as you can see, we try to balance those green spaces so that they're programmed with a number of amenities throughout the area. So the environmental reserve, the pathway, as you can see, it will tie into the community and loop along Dry Creek, and it's proposed to extend all the way down as it connects up with 24th. And there will be pathway connections that will lead you back into the community. So that will give an opportunity to really take advantage of that amenity space through the environmental reserve. And the stormwater pond, every community needs to have stormwater. And certainly this is, I'd say, almost a really nice entry coming into the neighborhood as well. But it is situated, as I identified in the community area structure plan. It's been moved up into the northeast corner. So you actually have quite an interesting entry where you've got open space presented to you, on both sides of the road. So this is a pier function. The size is it's sized to accommodate the area, and then will eventually outfall, and it ends up down at West Nose Creek eventually after it travels a few a few thousand meters to get there. This is the joint K-8 school site, and this is that number 10 I was talking about. It was a majority of that site was provided with the neighborhood structure plan to the east. We had a requirement to finish off the soccer fields or the play fields, and you can see there the fields actually overlap between the two sites. We have a regional pathway proposed as well, and it will also come up the utility alignment up the east side. It will loop around and then connect to the easement as well to the south. So it's definitely, you know, centrally situated. It falls between the two neighborhood structure plan areas, but it will allow for the full development of that site. This school, I'm just going to note, of course, hasn't been designed as well. That comes when the school is ready to be funded. So, but the school is located on, you know, two collector standard roadways within the community. So let's get into transportation. Transportation, a majority of our big high-level transportation is established in the community area structure plan. So within the CASP, it was identified that 24th Street and 40th were going to be arterial standard roads. We haven't exactly worked through the final details on the cross sections of those roads. Those are being looked at from a design perspective right now. But off those roads is where we find our internal system. We have collector standard roads that will follow through the north-south alignment of the community and come back along the rec center and high school site. Collector standard roads are needed. They're needed for bus routes. They're needed for, especially for volume to get residents efficiently and effectively into their communities, and then also back out of their communities. And so we have these collector standard roads, and there's also one that will head east into Southwinds, existing Southwinds. Then from there, we do have residential standard roads. We're using a grid or fuse grid network system. As I noted before, there's sidewalks on both sides, so well connected. The other layer that we looked at was how can we connect sidewalks to parks to pathways, and you'll see a number of arrows added to this drawing that shows you some of those direct routes and how we're going to get you out and around the community as best as possible. Down here in the corner, this is our community node, so it's been identified. We've got a live work opportunity that we're looking at down here, a small commercial site, and that commercial site also is sitting on two collector standard roads, and so it will be well serviced and easy to access when it's developed. Transit, as I noted just previously here, transit likes to follow collector standard roads, and it likes to follow arterial standard roads. And so we've certainly made allowances for transit to be routed through the community, with stops being located in locations that will capture the most residents and ensure that it's a quick walk to get to a bus stop. Servicing. Servicing is, it actually worked out really well for this area. It aligns with the community area structure plan and follows all standard easements within the roads. And as I noted, the stormwater will travel its way through the communities to the north and eventually end up into West Nose Creek. But from a servicing perspective, it was well planned out when it was done at the community area structure plan stage, and easy for us to be able to make all those connections. From a development phasing perspective, it's usually typical that we tie into where services are available, and certainly that's where we have we've proposed phase one. So phase one will be sitting adjacent to the existing community. And then we'll build out. So typically when phases are done, it's all about the roads and the pipes to making sure that we can get those in, and then the lots will follow after that. So it's sequential. Ideally, the east side of the plan will develop out earlier on, and then we'll work our way across. And then we've put the rec center and the high school site sitting in the 9th phase. And depending on timing and funding and all the other components that come with this, certainly there's opportunity for that to be earlier than the 9th phase. But we're going to work with the city on that just to make sure that it aligns. For now, we've put it there, but certainly it doesn't mean that that's the last phase or could be the last phase of development. I think I'd like to open it for questions. So Tamil, I don't know if you've had questions come in for clarity or.
Sure, yeah, we had a couple come in, and I assume maybe people are still just kind of absorbing the information. I know it's kind of a lot to take in, but like we had said, if you don't have your questions prepared tonight, we can always collect them through an online survey, or you can reach out to me directly. So I'll have all that information available to you. But this is the opportunity to, ask your questions. We've got all the sub-consultants and Matt from Mattamy on the call right now. So maybe we'll get everybody to turn their cameras back on just so people can see all of our faces while we answer questions. But I'm just going to kind of start at the top of the order of the questions that we've got so far. So the first one is, will the community sign on the corner of Winford and 8th Street be changed to reflect the community name Southwinds Song? So I do know we've been getting some questions about the naming, and I know Kathy, you kind of addressed it earlier, but maybe that's something Matt or Kathy you want to speak to.
Maybe I'll let Matt speak to it. I know it adds a little bit of confusion to it, but I don't think you have intentions of changing it over to Southwinds Song. Is that correct, Matt?
Yeah, thanks, Kathy. Yeah, I can speak to that. So the plan essentially is for this community to be a extension of the existing Southwinds, as most people know it, community. So just directly to the east. So the plan would be that it would look and feel and essentially be considered as one community. So we wouldn't be changing any existing signs to say Southwinds Song or anything. But yeah, the plan is essentially that this is an extension of that same community in look and feel, and we'll be marketing it the same way as the existing community, so as Southwinds. So hopefully that clears that up.
Okay, Tamil, did you have any other questions that were?
Oh, I was just talking with my mic on mute, that's why. So you'd think I'd know by now. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, it sounds like you answered the question and they're satisfied with that response, so that's great. So the next question is, when we were talking about the parks, we got the question, what about dog parks? I think you mentioned, Kathy, that there is one planned, but can we speak to it a little more?
Sure can, and I'm going to probably let, I'm going to pull it up, and I will let Allison speak to this. It is located here, so I'm just going to circle number 2 on the map, and this is the dog park proposed. And maybe you can talk about some of the amenities that are being proposed within that space.
Sure, absolutely. So for the dog park, we're looking at having a centralized parking area in the middle, and we have a small dog area to the south, which has agility equipment included in it. Just to the north, we have an open space, and then a large dog agility space up in the corner there. So the entire area is fenced, and we have that double gate going in so that it's secure for dogs on entry.
Awesome. Okay, thanks so much. If there's follow-up questions about that park specifically, just chuck them in the chat function and I can get to that. Just seeing. Okay, so we're kind of jumping to different topics. I'll try to keep them categorized, but as they come in, we'll just kind of jump around. Yeah, we'll keep it casual. Okay, so until the K-8 school is planned, I presume it will be seeded or sodded until that time?
There are some requirements, and I'll maybe let Matt respond to that on what the requirements are with the city.
Yeah, so essentially once all the boundary roads around that site are in place, we would look at landscaping it. I do know that that site is a high priority on Rocky View School District's list. So we would probably expect to see some action as far as that school thinks to start moving within the next few years. I can't speak on exact timelines, but the answer regarding the landscaping is yes, we would look at, once all the roads around that school site are in place, we would look at landscaping that in the meantime.
And Matt, would that include the pathway connection?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So hopefully that answered your question. Thanks so much. Where will construction traffic be routed primarily? Do we have that answer at this point?
I would pass it over to Matt or Stephen.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So it hasn't been determined, but there's really only two options, either through 40th or 24th Street. My guess is that it would be through 40th because 24th is not paved along the boundary of the site, but it certainly hasn't been, we're not that far along that we've totally figured that part out, but there really are only those two options.
Okay. If there's further questions about that, if so, that's a different question. Sorry about that. Kate will, if there's any more questions about construction, I think we pretty much covered it, but let me know. We've been asked, do we own or any plan to develop in future Southwest cast? So I know, Matt, you or I could probably speak to the Southwest cast, but I go for it.
To the question, we don't currently own any of the land in the Southwest CASP area. That's not to say we won't in the future, but currently we don't own any of that land. So there are no plans for us to develop in that area.
Yeah, the Southwest CASP is just wrapped up its kind of engagement planning as well. We have a separate website. BNA is supporting the Southwest CASP as well, so you can check out their website. I can put it into the link if anyone's curious about what's happening on those lands. But they're a little bit further ahead in the planning process, I guess, as far as getting to MPC and council than we are with the NSP. But the CASP is like a high-level planning document for similar to what the Chinook Winds CASP outlines for this project's area. They're working on it with the Southwest CASP. So for more information about that, I'm happy to share the website with you guys. Okay, next question. What is the planned community completion and phasing timeline? So maybe we go to the phasing graphic.
I will probably let Matt answer that one because he has a better handle on how quickly he thinks each of the phases will come on.
Yeah, certainly. So I can speak really just for the residential development of the site. So I can't speak at all to the joint high school or rec center site or even 40th Avenue. But the plan is that phase one will be likely starting work around this time next year. So we'll be starting our earthworks program. And then as far as overall completion of the site, it's always hard to say with certainty, but I would say we'd be looking at probably somewhere between 4 and 7 years for the residential part of the development. So.
Great, thanks so much, Matt. Okay, I'm gonna switch it up and go to somebody who's had their hand raised for a couple moments here. So Daryl Scalred, I see that you've had a couple questions, and I know that you're the landowner, one of the landowners nearby here. So I'm just gonna unmute your microphone, and please feel free to unmute yourself, and you should be able to chat. Let me know if you're having any issues. You should be unmuted. So on your device, Daryl, if you just click on the little, it should be a little microphone icon. You should be able, there you go. I can see you're on now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I had the opportunity of speaking with Matt this afternoon, and subsequent to that, my wife and I, Sue, have been sort of scratching our heads on the special study area that is now listed up in on our land. Now, we went to a fair amount of effort with the city of Airdrie to have our land designated as commercial. Today, we find out that and I don't know whether it is cast in stone with the city of Airdrie, but today we found out through Matt that it has now been removed or changed from commercial to special study area, which we still are a little bit perplexed about that, or unsure what that really means. But is it in fact been changed with the city of Airdrie to this special study area from commercial? And if it is, why weren't we ever informed? We have no idea this happened. And again, I'm not surprised that we're blindsided, and we sort of expected this sort of stuff to go on. But our area here is, we homesteaded here under the MD of Rockview, and this was supposed to be our retirement home, which obviously it's not going to be, because 40th Avenue is going to impact us, 24th Street is going to impact us, and this was, like I say, our retirement place. And now we're having real concerns about what's going to happen with it financially and stuff like that.
Sure, and I can certainly answer it and support Matt in the card. Absolutely, it has not been changed. And to be honest, and we do have the city of Airdrie on the line with this as well. There is certainly from Mattami's side, they've been looking at kind of the market components related to commercial. And they themselves are concerned that it might be too much commercial for them to be viable. And so there's a little bit more work there. It doesn't mean that yours isn't viable for commercial. And so I think this was kind of a recent discussion, and certainly not wanting you to feel blindsided. So would like to state that, apologies there. And I'm glad you talked to Matt earlier today. It could be just a special study area, honestly, just on the Mattamy portion, for them to do some further work to see, and that would be dialogue as well with yourself, to see if that is better suited to support the commercial or as residential or as another use. And I think what the special study area does is it kind of pauses the area. In all honesty, it's what we do as planners. Is it allows it to pause, and it doesn't automatically put a land use on the Mattamy piece that say might need more work or more attention. And so I think subsequent to this conversation tonight, I think there should be a conversation with yourselves and with the city of Airdrie and with the Mattamy team, just to make sure, because we certainly are not here to, we don't want to change anything on your property. It was more, I would say, more intended to sort out the Mattamy component to it, because they need a little bit more time. So hopefully you'll be willing, we can continue those conversations, but don't want you getting sleepless nights over it and concerned, because I think it just means a pause for Mattamy.
Well, am I back on?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Well, we intend to go to the city of Airdrie and discuss this as well. But like I say, if this first indication of a land change or land use change is a surprise to us, we're very concerned how many more surprises will come down the road, because communication, as you know, is a very vital thing in anything. And when we hear nothing except when it's almost done, it's I don't know what to do here.
And I respect that, and I believe it's probably the cast map that we updated. We updated within the last couple days and extended the hatching, and so certainly these ones are showing that your parcel's not. We don't have it included on the land use concept, or are we proposing land use on it? That is certainly your process to have and do. So absolutely, we'll have conversations and make sure it's sorted and you feel comfortable with what's going forward. We're not intending to make any changes, knowing that that's what you had wanted to have on the property. So it was more considered a pause, and I'm sorry that it felt like it was something different.
Okay.
And
so
Daryl,
much,
I can jump in just quickly and just reiterate that what the special study area does is essentially it acknowledges that your piece of land and our adjacent piece of land there need to be looked at as a whole, and they need to be planned as a whole. And it doesn't at all exclude the commercial aspect of potential future development there. What it does is it opens up that area to several different types of development, and just acknowledges that right now we need to maybe look a bit closer at all the information and make the right decision kind of for the future. So hopefully that helps a bit, Daryl.
Well, it does, but I just, like I say, I really hope that going forward that we can all work together on this without any surprises or backdoor decisions. Because, like I say, this is our retirement home, but it won't be. But this is what carries us on to the rest of our lives, whatever we get out of this place. And I hope a bit of compassion would be in whoever's formula they have for our property, or any plan they have for that, you know.
No, and
We'll definitely follow up.
you'll be part of those conversations, certainly. And I understand that this is your retirement. I get that. And so I think there'll just be more dialogue. And like I said, we do have the city of Airdrie on the line as well that are listening and understanding the importance of us having a conversation after this, for sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Daryl. Okay, awesome, great. Thanks so much for everybody who sent some questions in. We'll just kind of keep working through them now. Is the rec center and high school timeline a city question? Kathy, maybe you want to start.
That would be, yeah. I wish we could answer that. We can't answer that for you. Do we want? Would Larry or trying to remember or the city want to answer that question? Yeah, Michelle. I'm like, I think of her name. Yeah. Did you want to answer that question, one of you?
Let me just see if they're here and I can unmute their microphones. Okay, Larry, I'm gonna unmute you for a sec if you want to jump on. You can unmute yourself and speak here. There you go. Okay, I see that your mic's turned on, Larry, but we can't hear you. Still can't hear you. What I might do is go to Michelle and see if we can get you on. Okay, I see Michelle, you're on.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Michelle Locke here from the City of Airdrie and Community Services. Tamil, the question was the anticipated timelines for the recreation center. So the city is embarking upon the planning process for the future recreation center. And we anticipate that the planning will take at least the next 2 years. We have commenced that work. And if all goes well and council is able to have a finance plan, we would see construction starting sometimes in 2023. Probably the latter part of 2023, and then probably 18 to 24 months construction.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hopefully that provides a bit of clarity about that site. Thanks so much, Michelle. Appreciate you being on the line tonight. And Larry, I'm not sure, we can't hear you if you're still trying to speak, so I apologize if you're having some technical issues, but if you want to send me a note in the chat function, I can see if we can get you on after if you still want to say something. Okay, if we're adding population, is there any conversation with the city to have new connections with Highway 2 by adding in an exit in the future? Is that a question for Stephen, maybe?
No, it's probably for Ross. Ross, are you
Sorry,
able to
Ross, yes.
or Matt?
Yeah.
One of you? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the question there. I would say that's beyond the scope of this project, but the city and Alberta Transportation are definitely having those discussions. I believe there's been recent news about 40th Avenue interchange with Highway 2. And I know the city is also looking at 24th Street as a future connection south towards the city. And on the east side of Highway 2, there's a similar connection being considered for the future to accommodate all the growth in Airdrie and provide good connectivity to the south without overloading Highway 2, actually. Hope that answers the question. If you have more, just type them in.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the chat, and if it comes back up, we'll jump back to that. Okay, great. Back to the dog park design for you, Allison. It says, will the dog park design be something like the new ones we've already seen here in Airdrie, or something more like the designs that we see located in East Village in Calgary?
Sure, thanks. So the intent with this dog park is to have the agility equipment, which is, I think East Village does have the agility equipment in it, but this is going to be a natural turf field, not an artificial turf dog park.
Okay, great, thanks so much. Just seeing if there's any other questions about the dog park. Doesn't look like it. So we're going to jump to another kind of area. Are the commercial areas open for sale right now? Matt?
No, the commercial areas are not open for sale right now. It's a bit too early in the planning process for that. Yeah, currently not for sale, and I would anticipate they would be at some point in the upcoming years.
Okay, yeah, her next question was, if so, what's the timeline? So I guess a couple years out is what you're kind of saying.
Some of that will come into play with the rec center timing and the high school.
Yeah.
Certainly, you know, they'll be synergistic with each other. And once we get residences in, there'll be an opportunity to support that even further. So I think it's exciting to hear some of the timing. I'm not sure if Larry put a comment in yet, Tamil, but it's exciting to hear the timing that potentially it could be, you know, those other components, you know, coming in the nearer future. So.
Yeah, Larry just jumped in. His mic doesn't seem to be connecting, but he said for the school division, they'll have a longer timeline than the rec center because they cannot request funding for the building until the site is shovel ready. So that's kind of the answer to that question. Okay, so hopefully we answered about the commercial. There's a question that went back. I think we were talking about construction. So can we just confirm that construction would likely avoid Osborne Drive? I believe that's what we were saying. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would expect that it would be on 40th Ave versus Osborne Drive. Matt, if you agree with that.
Yeah, so without saying that there's going to be no construction traffic on Osborne Drive, we always attempt to kind of take an approach of affecting the least amount of people, and 40th Avenue would make more sense. It'll depend a little bit on the timing of that road, of course, and if it's in condition to for construction vehicles. But yeah, of course we'll try to avoid major roads or roads that have people already moved in and living on. So.
And there'll be, I mean, localized expectations of you know, construction traffic, and that's the purpose of some of our higher order roads, you know, 40th and certainly the collector standard roads. So yeah, that's where we generally want to put most of the traffic, and Madam, you can certainly kind of direct them as well if need be, if there's a shortcut that exists, of course.
Thanks so much. Okay, I've just got somebody with their hand raised, so I want to make sure we get to you. And I'm sorry if I say your name wrong, but Malik, I'm just going to unmute your, or Malik, possibly, if you want to unmute your microphone. There you go. I see you're on.
Hi, like I just like to know, like I asked question to Ross, basically, there's only 2 exits right now out from Airdrie and connecting to the highway. And then if we want to go exit from Airdrie, then any other, like other roads are just county roads and not developed. So we are keep adding the population on east, like this west side. And is there like any other arrangements happening for a faster exit, or like is 40th is connecting to the highway too or something like that? Because the population is increasing on west side, and then we have to take just a single roads, rural roads to exit and go back to Calgary, basically. So is there any planning on that?
Yeah, like I said, it's not part of this project, but the city is planning for that. 24th Street, for example, on the west side of this project is planned in the longer term as a major connection south towards Calgary, I believe connecting to Center Street north. I know 8th Street, I think Alberta Transportation was going to improve that intersection with 8th Street and 566, which is the one that leads over to Cross Iron Mills. I think I saw they had a plan for a roundabout there to improve that route. Then, like I said, on the east side of Airdrie, I know there's also similar plans to have routes going south. They're not in the timeline of this project necessarily, but the city is thinking about that. That's probably all I can really add. The city has a document called the Transportation Master Plan that's on their website that would have a lot more detail if you wanted to get into the details of it.
Yeah, is there no plan to connecting this 40th Avenue to the Highway 2 or?
Yeah, there is a plan for an interchange there. As I mentioned, I think within the last 6 months or a year, there was some news maybe about funding even, or construction starting on that. So 40th Avenue is supposed to have some ramps connecting southbound onto Highway 2 towards Calgary.
Yeah, and sorry to ask another question is about this rec center. Is the rec center similar to the rec center what we have in the east, or is still on a preliminary planning basis?
I'll have to let somebody else answer that one.
I think we'll let Michelle answer that question if she's able to jump back on.
Yeah, Michelle, you're on.
Yes, thank you for the question. The rec center that is conceived would be very similar to Genesis Place. I can't tell you which specific facility amenities will be contained. We do something called a community facility needs assessment to determine the top priorities, and then we do further community engagement to understand needs that would augment and supplement what already exists in the community.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Great, thanks, Michelle, and thank you so much for your questions. We really appreciate it. Okay, moving on to the next question. When the wind is coming from the west, is there a plan to suppress the dust that will be heading to the existing South Windsong community? The current construction in the southwest portion of South Windsong is generating significant dust and dirt to the existing residents. Who's the best to speak to that?
Matt, you can decide who's best to answer that, if it's yourself or Stephen.
I apologize. I did miss the start of that question.
Oh, no problem. So with the wind coming from the west, they're just wondering about if there's a plan to kind of suppress the dust that would be heading into the existing South Windsong community. I guess the current construction in the southwest portion of South Windsong is creating quite a bit of dust and dirt for existing residents. So can we speak to kind of mitigations or what you guys might have in store?
Yeah, I'd have to touch base with our construction team. So I'd have to touch base with them, but my understanding is that, yeah, we do attempt to control the dust in all of our construction activities. That said, of course, it's pretty difficult to guarantee a dust-free environment in a construction zone. So yeah, I can touch base and see what we're currently doing, and yeah, see if there's anything else we can do to contain the dust a little bit.
Yeah, just to add a bit to that, certainly I agree with you, Matt. It's very difficult to fully control the dust, but the city of Airdrie requires the developer to provide an erosion and sediment control plan in order to get into their grading permit. So there is certainly a plan which would include a variety of different erosion and sediment control practices that try to reduce the amount of dust that's blown off the site or erosion that happens due to rainfall and all these things. But it's a difficult thing to fully control, but there certainly is a plan that will be in place prior to any grading activities.
Great, thanks so much. I skipped a question by accident. When is the K-8 school proposed to start building, and when will it be completed? So that's the one where Kathy's mouse is pointing.
Yeah, right here, and that comes down to funding. I don't know if Larry wants to comment on that one at all in the chat, but Matt had identified that it's sitting as a priority and certainly would be waiting on the funding component. So Larry, if you want to add into the chat, then we can come back to that one and see and share that with everyone.
Sure. I've unmuted you again if you can talk, but I think that we might still be having some connection problems. So we'll wait for him to respond to that and I'll jump back up. In the meantime, let's see here. Since the city is on the call, are there any plans to control the amount of cars parked on the streets in the current residential area, or will there be any control of that when the population grows? So just talking on street parking, I believe, in existing residential areas. And I don't know if that's something that we can speak to at a high level, or if someone from the city wants to jump on. I'm not sure who would speak to the residential parking. I know we have recreation.
It might be something that Michelle needs to take back and discuss internally. Michelle, did you want to speak to it at all?
Thank you for the question. Transportation and the road and street bylaws, not my area of specialty, but I'd be, I will convey that is a question that was raised. Thank you.
And we will certainly, all the questions that get asked tonight, if we can't give an answer, we commit to making sure that we have an answer prepared and brought back. And certainly the ones that will go forward back to administration, we'll make sure and help Michelle out by documenting all of those as well.
Yeah, we'll be making a summary of all the questions that have been asked and distribute them out to the correct folks to help give answers. Okay, Larry just provided a response to the above question about the future Rocky View joint school site. The school is currently number 3 on their capital request. However, they do not control the timing of government funding approvals. So hopefully the next round of approvals is March 2022. So hopefully that gives some clarity on that future joint use school site. Thanks so much, Larry. We appreciate you jumping in. Sorry we can't get your mic working. Okay, next question. What about the high school? Do we know where that site is on the Rocky View School want list? So that is another question, I guess. If the joint use site is number 3, then yeah, Larry, where does the high school site sit, I guess, on the list?
And Larry had made a comment that it's tied in with the shovel readiness of the school site as well. And that'll be probably more discussions that will occur between the Rocky View School Division and Mattamy on exactly when that would be. And certainly if the rec center component advances and resolution comes between the concept and how the site's going to get, I guess, divvied up with the amenities, that definitely adds more conversation with Mattamy, because they're certainly, everyone's tied together, you know, with roads adjacent to it and other components. So I think time will tell, and then more details will be able to come out on exactly when it can be budgeted and built.
Okay, great. Let's see here. The high school site will not be requested for funding until the site is ready. Yeah, so he just reiterated what Kathy said there. Okay, so we've come to a point where there's no questions in the queue, and I don't see anybody's hands raised at this moment. But I don't want to shut it down too early if there are some outstanding questions, because we're at 7 o'clock. Yeah. So well, I just want to make sure.
We could talk about the timing too.
That's a good idea.
Want to talk about that piece?
Sure. Yeah. So we started this project kind of early April with publicly, I guess, getting the project website uploaded. We did our adjacent landowner and some community outreach throughout April, leading up to this event. And then tonight's our info session, which replaces kind of your standard open house that we typically host when COVID is not a factor. But we're so happy that we got such a great turnout for this virtual event. We'll have our online survey up for the next 1 to 2 weeks. We do need to get a report out to council to include this in our package. So we do ask if you're going to complete the survey, if we could get it probably within the next week would be even more helpful, because then it's definitely included in our package to council for the Municipal Planning Commission. But we will leave the survey up just so that Mattamy has an idea of, you know, other comments that are coming in, because in my mind, engagement doesn't really ever close. We kind of keep things open. Mattamy wants to have good relationships with their neighbors and their residents. So that survey will be posted tomorrow, along with a recording of this session. And then we'll have our engagement summary ready about mid-May. It'll take me probably a week to 2 weeks to just pull that together. And then we're targeting, we have a date for Municipal Planning Commission, which is when Mattamy will go forward to MPC and present the plans on May 20th. And then we're targeting this public hearing of council for June 21st. So things are moving fairly quickly. And that's why we wanted an opportunity to get out and hear from adjacent neighbors and landowners and get feedback and answer some of your questions so that everybody's kept up to date and in the loop. So that's kind of our timeline. And I see as I was chatting, there's a few more questions that have come through. Looks like, oh, just a comment about looking forward to viewing the PDF presentation and our recording, which no problem. And anybody that's on this call tonight as well, I've got your email addresses, so we can also send this out via email too, so that you guys, so it's really easy for you to access. We did get a question about housing. Would Mattamy offer some bungalows? Matt.
No, it's a good question. Currently, this plan, and actually, I don't believe in anywhere in Alberta we offer bungalows. It's truthfully a question I can't really answer why regarding that specific housing type. So no, there's no plan to offer bungalows here, unfortunately. But my parents have asked me the same thing, and I can't give them a great answer. So.
But it's worthy of you noting it so that we put it in our what we heard report, so that Matt
Absolutely.
with his greater peeps. So
Yeah,
I think it's valuable of it, and we'll make sure that it gets identified. And certainly, I'm sure Mattamy does, you know, surveys throughout it, and you might get, you know, some new information as well from this, in addition to just bungalows.
Absolutely.
Great. Perfect. Thanks so much. Let's see. Oh, I did accidentally, I'm so sorry, Danielle, I skipped over your question and I'm going to go back to it right now. Is there a plan for the farmland located on Osborne Drive entering the community from 8th Street?
I'm just going to go back to that community map just to see if we can use that as and I'm sorry if I'm going too fast. Is that the land down here that they're, Tamil?
Osborne Drive, where was that? Entering the community from 8th Street.
Yeah, so I can speak. So I believe the questions about the piece of land that's just south of Osborne Drive, entering into Southwinds Zone. So that piece of land is not owned by Mattamy. That's a private owned landowner. I believe that land was recently listed for sale. I don't know the status of it and I can't really speak to it. So unfortunately, there's no plan available right now, and I can't speak any further on that because we don't own the land. So
I'm just looking where your mouse is pointing. Sorry, I was answering a couple of questions.
It's okay. Down here, correct, Matt? In this bottom corner, down here.
Like it's on the north side. Is that what we're saying? Or were they asking about south in the southwest CASP? Or
no. So the question is, it's just it's a little holdout parcel of land
contained here in this
just south on our Southwinds Zone NSP area. So
okay.
It's in the southeast corner of that.
Over in this corner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Great, thanks so much. Just wanted to make sure we were all looking at the same spot. Okay, so someone just asked, where do we get the survey? What page? So I did just post a link to the survey in the chat function for everybody, for all participants, but it'll also be posted on the website tomorrow. So Kathy, on the very last slide, I believe it's called Get Involved.
I'm gonna race through these. Sorry, I raced through them like crazy. There's the website right there.
So if you go to southwindsnsp.com, tomorrow morning we'll get the recording of this video and the link up. I could actually probably get it up tonight if I have a couple minutes after this, but it is in the chat function as well. So anybody on the call tonight, you can use it right from that chat box. So if you have any issues, just give me a shout or send me an email. It's all in this last slide here. So that's that question. Will attendees get an email with the survey link? Yeah, I can send that out tomorrow as well, for sure. And will the presentation slides be made available? Yes, they will, absolutely. I know some people probably joined a little bit late, so no problem at all. Is Mattamy going to get in the retirement building complex with the aging demographic? Matt.
So right now, Mattamy in Alberta does not build any low-rise or mid-rise or high-rise buildings. So we strictly do low-density residential in the form of single-family and townhomes. So the answer at this point would be no, but again, it's possible in the future. Just I don't really have any insight to that.
And I think some of that comes from operators as well. Investigate. We've worked with a couple seniors operators in Calgary, and part of their process is to do a lot of market studies and see where there's a need. And it's not uncommon that they will just approach developers to see if there is opportunity. And definitely, you know, the neighborhood structure plan sets the framework for how the community will develop out. You know, if Matt gets a great offer for an opportunity to include that in this area, that can easily be accommodated, probably in a land use and, you know, a small change to the neighborhood structure plan. So definitely, we rely a lot of the times on operators. And as Matt said, since they don't do those parcels themselves, they tend to be approached if there is the desire. So it's certainly not off the table, but I understand, you know, Matt, that it's not your area of business at the moment.
Great. Okay, we're kind of at a natural pause again. Doesn't look like there's any questions. I know quite a few people have kind of jumped off already, so taking that as a gesture that we've probably answered most of the questions that are out there lingering. But again, we just want to reiterate that we're open to continue. Like if you didn't have a chance to ask your question tonight, or you just need a little bit of time to mull it over, we're definitely happy to, you know, take your call or your email tomorrow, or read your survey response over the next week or two. And as I said that, residential floor plans will follow. So residential floor plans will follow the current layouts. I believe that's just a question about.
Yeah, so the residential floor plans will be similar to what's currently offered. We are planning to change our lot and product dimensions a little bit. So essentially the biggest difference is our single family product in this community will be a little bit wider than what's currently offered in Southwinds. So it's a slight change, but it won't be anything significant. So there will be new floor plans available, but yeah, I guess that's the biggest change. Our townhouses with garages off the lane at the back of the house, they will continue. So it'll be similar product there. And then we'll also be offering front, so townhouses with a garage at the front. So we offered this previously in our development in Hillcrest. So those will be the three product types that Mattamy is planning to offer that we'll be building. Like I said, there could be other types by others. But yeah, currently those are the three that we'd be looking to offer.
Great, thanks so much. Hopefully that answered your question. Question for Matt, is the Ruby design coming back? I'm not sure what that means, so I'll let you speak to it.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, again, this is outside of my area of expertise. I'm more on the land development side and not the actual home building side. So I
Matt,
can't
take that back to his team and he'll find
absolutely. It's great. It's
offer.
great feedback. Assuming you enjoyed the Ruby design, and we'll definitely take that back, and I'll be certain to chat with our building group.
I hear bungalows and the Ruby are the two main things out of this conversation. I'm documenting this verbally as well as we'll document it on paper as well.
That's the great thing about this format, actually, is, you know, everything gets captured. It's all of the chats and everything in our recording, it's all transcribed and we have copies of it. So it's almost, when you go to an open house, you know, you talk to one person, and if they're not carrying a notepad and writing down what you're saying, you don't know if your feedback's actually getting captured. But in this format, it definitely is. So you've got all the right people on the line for sure to be hearing. So okay, yeah, it sounds like the Ruby is spacious. So that was the follow-up comment. Okay, yeah, we've come, looks like we're kind of out of questions again at this point. So it's 10 after 7. Kathy, was there anything else or anybody else on the call that wanted to have any closing thoughts or any last messages out before we wrap? Again, I don't want to end early if there is outstanding questions, but of course, once this is over, we're more than happy to, you know, hear from you in other formats as well. So I'll just hand it over to you guys maybe for some closing thoughts.
Yeah, I think I would just reiterate, you know, thank you for spending your evening with us. And definitely we're finding this is a different way. And I agree with Tamil. It's sometimes easier to get the whole picture and you can do it this way versus if we're standing at boards. But I do recognize and appreciate that you've given some time to come and find out what's going on. And certainly, you know, the timelines are coming up and your voice is important. So it's important that, you know, Matt hears, you know, what the adjacent residents and community have to say or have questions about. So certainly his team is here to answer and continue to answer questions as they consider this as the extension to their existing community. So Matt, I don't know if you have a few things you want to say to wrap up as well.
Can I actually just interrupt the wrap up really quick? Because we have another question.
I was going to say, before we wrap up.
Yeah, we're jumping all over, but it's great. I like to see the questions still come in. Wondering if there's going to be sidewalks with the green space between the road and the sidewalks. So I guess the cross section, do we know if that will include sidewalks with the green space between the roads?
Separated sidewalks is your question. Is that, I think
yeah,
that's,
I think
I'll put that over to Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, I can speak to that one. So this plan has a combination of separate sidewalks and what we call monolithic sidewalks. So the ones you're asking about are the separate sidewalks, and yes, those will be provided on what's called our collector roads. So the more main roads in the neighborhood. So exactly, so it would be Osborne Drive, which continues from the existing community, and then also Southwinds Boulevard, which is the north-south main road, and then also Southwinds Drive. So yeah, those are the three internal roads that would have what we call separated sidewalks with green space between, and then the design of 40th and 24th Street, while I don't want to promise anything because those are city designed roads, my assumption is that those would also have separated sidewalks. So
I would suspect it would be a combination, maybe sidewalks and pathways as well. So that'll be, they'll at least have 2 sidewalks on both sides.
Just to jump in a bit too, Kathy, if you flip to the open space and connectivity slide,
Sure,
that has the walk types listed on it.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants reference there, it's
So they
located.
are, so these, so in to follow up from what I just commented on, this is showing regional pathways on both sides of the road on 40th. It's also, it's showing a separate sidewalk on 24th. I don't have the other side of the cross section identified here. And also the north-south collector road will have a regional pathway on one side, and the separated sidewalk will continue on the other side. And that's the same as the road that will run east-west at the bottom of the rec and high school site. And on Osborne, it's separated sidewalks along there. And then of course it ties into that pathway. So yes, you've got it on a number of those higher order roads. Was there a follow-up with that, Tamil, or was it?
Yeah, she just said she can email us a bit later and show what she means. She said it's difficult with cars getting damaged because the sidewalk is right up against the curb.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's talking, I think she's referring to it as a leeway, but I think what we're referring to it as like a separated sidewalk.
Yeah, the mono sidewalk is a sidewalk that sits right up against the curb. And that's where, like, if you opened your car door or you're walking along the sidewalk, the cars are directly adjacent to it. That's probably what she's thinking.
Yeah. So when we say separated sidewalk, that's the protection between the sidewalk and the.
Correct. That's the boulevard will have a separation. There will be either a green strip or there will be that boulevard component that goes between the curb and then the sidewalk.
Okay. Okay, great. Hopefully that answers your question, Natalie. And then someone just kind of joined the meeting a bit late. So can we just provide one more time the timelines for when you're thinking ground will be broke construction on maybe the phasing?
Yeah, I put phasing up, and then Matt, you can just reiterate those what you thought, and of course it's market dependent, and you know you certainly have your best guess as to what you think each phase will take.
Yeah. So phase one, we are hoping to break ground next year, right around this time. So that's our phase one plan. As far as ultimate build out for the residential area, again, it's market dependent. So I estimated kind of between 4 and 6 or 7 years.
Okay, great. And Whitney, I know you joined a bit late, so if you have any other questions, feel free to shoot me an email, and we're happy to answer your questions. There's also a link to our survey in the website, or on the website, and in the chat function here. Does the light blue line dividing Dow phase name? Sorry, I'm just trying to read this one. Does that light blue line dividing something phase name indicate the planned split?
This line
between
here,
the school. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, between the school and the rec center.
Yeah, at this point, I think there's still work to be done on how the site's going to develop with the two, and certainly, Michelle, you can comment on that if you'd like, if you're still on the line with us. I don't believe it does. I believe the next round of your process is going to be examining between yourselves what's the best layout for the site, and how do you place all the amenities, and you'll do that through engagement and internal discussions and whatnot. So if I've half answered your question for you, you certainly can confirm or add additional components if you'd like.
You answered it very well, thank you.
Okay, so pretend it's not there for right now, because we're not.
Yeah, it's an imaginary line right now.
It's a very good question though. You know what? And I kept talking about it being a big green blob, and we do have a line on there, so it's a little bit. It definitely was worth a question. So thank you for asking it.
It was a good find though, because this is the only map that has a line. It is imaginary at this point. We want to be clear.
Larry just typed into it only indicates lot size. The layout is yet to be determined. So yeah, just to reiterate that. Yeah. So yeah, Robert says thanks for the answer. Okay, great. So yeah, for anybody that just joined a little bit late, we are kind of, I guess, coming to a natural close, but that does not mean we are ending engagement. You're welcome to shoot us an email, fill out the survey, please get in touch if you have follow-up questions or comments. We just don't want to keep people on too late if everybody's kind of feeling satisfied with the information that was provided and got your questions answered. So now maybe I'll hand it over to Matt to wrap up.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, I just want to kind of reiterate what Tamil and Kathy had already said. So really appreciate everybody taking their time out of their evening to be here, and especially appreciate everyone's feedback. So yeah, everybody, encourage everyone to fill out the survey or leave comments, write us an email. There's I think an email listed on the Southwinds NSP website. So yeah, we'd love to hear everyone's feedback on what you think, and really appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah, and thanks for everybody. Thanks for everyone for participating, and yeah, please don't be afraid to reach out at any point in time. So with that, I guess we'll wrap a bit early and you guys can all enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much again. Take care.